Hello and welcome back to Harriet's Custom Computer Art Plus. Today I'm going to be showing you how to assemble my newest template, the Carousel. I'm going to have this available in my Etsy store, and I'll put the link in the description. First of all, when you get everything cut out, and for your poles, when it's going to be a memorial display, so I altered it and added frames so that the customers can add in, of course, their own pictures. But how I first do my poles, I like to do them double-sided so the image can be seen on all sides. And how I put it together is I line it up perfectly to make sure that the mirrored images are lined up perfectly. And then I just open one side while I'm holding the other side down with my hand. And I take my glue roller. I use the glue roller on this one because it makes the image stay flat. But if you want to use hot glue, you can use hot glue as well. And I just run my glue roller down that one edge and secure it, or make sure that it's adhered. And then we're ready to add our skewers. So how I add the skewers, move that out the way. How I add the skewers is I open up that side that I left open, because you only want to glue one side to start, and then we're going to run hot glue all the way down the pole. Now if you don't think that you're sturdy enough, or your hand is steady enough to get it straight down the pole here, you can just put like dots of glue to hold it in place, and that would probably be enough. Just make sure you put one at the top, and then make sure you have some on the bottom pole, so that you can make sure that the whole image is adhered to the skewer. Oops. And then I left about 1.5 inches for the skewer. And if you don't get the glue directly in the middle, don't panic, because this allows you to kind of roll it into place. You just stick it where the glue is and then just roll it into place where you want it to be. So even if it's not straight, you still have a chance. And I wanted to leave about 1.5 inches, which I was running my mouth, so I didn't. So I'm going to see if I can adjust it. If not, that still will be enough, but I was running my mouth instead of making sure I had it in the right place. But you can see on these how long I plan to make it, and I'll just cut off the excess if I need, and I still have the tip up there, and it'll work just fine. So you can also recover from any mistake you made, as you can see. Alright, now once I have that side done, I didn't want to pull this off because I didn't want to rip the paper that it's on. Usually I print these on glossy photo paper, and that's what I would usually recommend, but since I'm doing a tutorial for this one, I used just cardstock so that it would be easy to see and without a lot of glares. And then I'm just going to line that up over the stick, the pole beneath it, so that it looks like one pole. And then you can use your hot glue and just put a thin line of glue down the side, because this side you have a chance to press it and make sure it's flat, unlike if you had done it well, I guess you could have used it on either side, but I like to use the tape roller on the first side, and then I can use the hot glue gun after that. So now I have one more to do, so in case you didn't catch it, I'll show you. These are my pictures. That's my whole family when we were growing up, and this is one to commemorate my relatives that I made as a sample, just to show how I assemble it. The idea was given to me by one of the subscribers who want to make one as a memorial display for a wedding. So I hadn't even thought of using it in that situation, but I thought that was such a good idea, so I altered my template for her so that she'd have the frames, and then I decided to go ahead and use that to make the assembly tutorial. So now you're just once again going to go down the middle of that stick or skewer drop in some glue as you go along. Oops. And then you're going to press it to that side to make sure it lines up over there a little bit, so that you know that the edge is going to be smooth over there and line up correctly as well. And then you just kind of maneuver these so that they're directly in front of the one behind it. So now I have all my screws made. The next thing I'm going to do is, this is going to be the top underside of the top of the carousel. So I won't deal with that one yet. Let's go straight to the canopy. So these are the pieces of the canopy, and once again I'm going to use my, my tape roller. These are going to make up, two pieces are going to make up the base, and I'll tell you more about that once I get to that part. And for this one, I'm going to, you have to overlap it. So I'm going to overlap the white, and I actually did make a small cut right here and a small cut right there, so that if they're not laying down like I want them to, then I could attach them at the little cut I made and then line them up. So we need to make this so that it will fold into a cone shape. So I want this white piece covered. So I'm going to take my glue roller and I'm going to just roll inside of those gold lines so that I can attach this. So I'm going to move that over so I can get right at that gold line, and it'll really overlap that a little bit anyway, but I just want to, I don't want to have the glue showing through or the tape showing through. And you probably don't have to use as much glue as I'm using. I think one down each of these sides and then some along here should be fine. And then you're going to, got a little extra glue there. Then you're going to take the blue one and you're going to put it directly over that gold one so that it takes the place of the gold one. And you're going to press that out so that you make sure it adheres. And now when you bring these sides together, and once again I want to keep the blue, you're going to, so now that's when my cut comes in. So I'm just going to do like that so that it puts this one on top, and then I can make my perfect cone shape. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to run the tape gun here on this triangle so that I can make the umbrella canopy. And you're going to run it as close to that gold, the lighter gold line, so that it will look just like it's just one piece instead of two pieces that are taped together. And then come around this curved edge so that it will look like a continuous piece rather than the double, two separate pieces. And then I'm just going to bring this underneath, line it up with the white one, and now I'm going to need to turn this over so I can make sure that it adheres. Sorry that my camera is shaking. So now we have the top of our canopy, and this is going to be a pretty large size. This is the largest I could make it using my wide format printer. I used the 13 by 19 inch sheets of paper, but you can resize it, of course, in Canva any way you'd like. So we're going to put this off to the side now, and I can go ahead and go to this one. Is this piece, this is all you're going to do to this piece. This is the base, or the, I'll call it a doily for the carousel to sit on. So all I did, I cut these out by hand because I don't have the Cricut that cuts large pieces, and it doesn't take long to do that. I had it cut out pretty quickly. But on this side, I just left about a 1/2 inch of white paper, and this just shows you where to line it up, and it also gives it extra area to adhere to. But I have it where it can overlap, so it'll be easy to line up. So you'll just line that up like that with the image underneath it, and use your tape roller glider, and then you can just trim off that extra white once it's together. So let me go ahead and use the tape roller. I also use the tape roller on this part because it's such a big piece. I wanted to make sure that if I needed to make a correction, I could. So with the tape roller, you have time to make the correction. With the hot glue gun, you might end up ripping your template, and definitely you don't want to start all over again. So I'm just running some down, and I want to get it as close to that where the printing is as possible. Actually, I can actually go over a little further because I have it overlapping a bit, so I can go a little beyond on that blue just to make sure that it's gonna also look like one piece. And this is gonna be flat anyway, so it should look good regardless. And then you're just gonna line this up again, like I said, with the piece underneath. Hopefully I'm not shaking the camera too much. I just lined it up easily the first time. Alright, there we go. Now we're getting somewhere. And I'm just going to pull this out until it lines up on that side. Check both sides. It's looking pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and put those down. Now, as you can see, you'll see how large your carousel is going to be. This is with the carousel umbrella or canopy on top. But this is the part that is going to make up the base. If I could pick it up. And as you can see, it'll sit in the middle of that circle and will look nice, really nice once it's done. Now I'm going to move on to this piece. For this piece and this piece, these are the two that you're going to make a cutout with foam core, because these are the two pieces that are going to hold all the skewers in place, and this is what will help your base to be not floppy but strong. So you're going to take these two pieces, and then I'll explain more about the marking once we get there, but you're going to take these two pieces and trace them out on a piece of foam core. Now for this one, let me grab some foam core. I think I had a scrap piece. It could be a scrap piece because this one is not going to be shown. But let me grab the one I had. So this is a scrap piece that I was using. And what you're going to do, because you don't want to mark on this side, you're going to turn it this way. And once you trace it out, you're going to trace out this whole edge. I might do it with my little Cricut, whatever they call that tool. You're going to lay the opposite side, not the printed side, and you can use a pencil. I have black, so I have to kind of black foam core, so I have to kind of make an impression in there all the way around. But if you have white, which would be a good idea since you need to trace these out, and you're going to trace this whole circle out. So I'm going to get my pen or whatever it was that I used, and I'm going to trace this one out, and I'm also going to get a piece and do the same with this one. Now this one you can do this side up because this is the side that's going to be hidden. That's why I didn't mind marking there. So we're going to make a cutout, a foam core cutout of this one, and a foam core cutout. Boy, that's hard to say. We're going to make a foam core cutout of this one, which is the base of the carousel, and we're going to make a foam core cutout of this piece, and I'll show you how I do it. So I'm going to set those to the side for now and grab a pencil. Okay, I got this little this little picking tool that's for Cricut. So since I'm using the black paper, I'm going to use this so I can make a impression all the way around, so I'll know where to cut my circle. Sometimes I use a skewer too. So a skewer works as well. So I'm just going to put that close to the edge. And I'm just going to move this close to the edge. And then I'm just going to draw, kind of indent a circle around this. I'm going to do that all the way around the image. Cricut tools have many different uses. This works out perfectly for when using black foam core. Alright, so now you can see the impression of my line all the way around there. And I'll do the same thing for the top. It's going to be holding on to the canopy. And I can leave this one face up. I'll line it up with the corner. Alright, so I'm going to put this, trying to keep it on the camera screen. I'm just going to line this up in the corner so that I know where to cut my lines. That's pretty good. Then I'm just going to do the same thing. Going to run down the edge so I know where to cut. I think I went a little off on that one. So let's fix that again. And then you can always use your ruler for these straight edges once you're ready to cut. If you make any traces outside of where you need to be, you just use the ruler to cut. Side there. So like I said, any of those cuts you can correct with a ruler. So this is my octagon, and now you're going to grab your blade, and I use this precision blade. It's called DAT X. Great knife for intricate cuts as well as the cuts in general. So now we have this one ready, and we're just going to cut these out. I'm going to cut these out, and then I'll be back. This one I need to cut. Let's see if it pops out. All right. So we have our octagon, and now I'll cut out the circle. Now the octagon, you're going to cut the octagon exactly the same measurements all the way around. So you want those to be the same measurements. But for the circle, instead of cutting it so that it fits, snug, you want to cut a little bit inside of the line, because we're going to put a base around, or a sidewall around the underside of this piece, and you want to make sure that it has some space to adhere so that you won't see any of the edge. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this one out. Depending on the thickness of your paper, you might be able to just go just barely inside of that line all the way around. And I'm doing this in real time so you can see how easy and how quickly it can go. it would go even faster, but I'm trying to move a little slower so that everybody that watches this can see the steps clearly and will know exactly what they're doing. Once again, I apologize for the camera movement. This is a new stand that I'm using, and I have it attached to the table, and the table seems to be on its last leg, so to speak. One of the legs doesn't want to be here anymore. Okay, so now I'm just going to see how I did on cutting that. I might need to trim it a little more, but like I said, you're just going to cut just a little bit inside the line. So I'm just going a little bit more. And too straight. All right. So let's try that again. And that's looking much better. Yeah, that's looking much better. But you can always trim it down more. Okay, so we're ready to move on. So I'm going to go ahead and attach the octagon. So I'm going to move that to the side. No, actually, that's what I'm doing, to the side. And then I'm going to take my octagon, and before I put it on, I'm going to show you how I did this. So the reason why you see this line here is because I wanted to line up the spot where the middle pole will go. So you can use anything that has a pretty straight edge. That one's straighter. And you're just going to go halfway between each of the circles so that you're lining up with the point. You're going to draw a little line somewhere near the middle, and then you're going to turn it and do the same thing from the opposite side. Make sure that it's lined up right with the point. Draw another line in the middle, and it gives you your center point. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sit this on my octagon cutout. Looks like I need to trim a little more from here. Alright, I think I need to change my blade out of that. It usually cuts perfectly. And now I'm just going to sit it here so that I can make my holes for the carousel poles. So I'm going to take a skewer or any type of pointy object, and I'm going to put it right in the middle of that circle, and hopefully this works. I thought it was going to try to break on me. So now you have your circle, and I'm going to go ahead and put my finger under here and make sure that it goes all the way through. Just like that. And you're going to do that for each side. Line it back up, and you're going to do that for each side of this octagon. Try to put it right in the middle. Once again, you'll have some play room in there, but this is dull already, so you might need to find like a screwdriver, a small screwdriver, or something tiny enough to get through there, because this is already going dull on me. But the main idea is just to get that hole through there. So I'm going to get that done, and then I'll be back all the way around. As you can see, I went ahead and used my craft knife just to get it initially going, and then I can get all the way through. Until I get all the way through all of these. So I just made a little cut with my knife and then put this through the center. Push it on through so you feel it on the back like that. So that you'll have all of your lines correct with your holes. Yeah, the skewer idea, it works, but you'd have to go through multiple skewers, so just use something sharp like a screwdriver tip or something, and then you can get through there. And this is only the second time that I've made one of these carousels, so you see how easy it is to do. I designed it after making a flat image of a carousel, just a regular picture of what I want it to be. Then I went back in and told it how I wanted it to create all of these pieces to make it a 3D centerpiece. Now, so I have all my circles around. Now this is important because this is lined up to this cutout. So instead of flipping this over now, you're just going to take it out and put it underneath, because now all of your holes will line up. If you instead had taken this and then just flipped it over and put it here, you might have had to redo some of your holes. Now that we're finished punching those holes where we want them, we're not going to flip this over and put it here. We're just going to move it to the bottom like that, and now all your holes will still be lined up with the holes here. And at this point, now this is what will be seen underneath the canopy tint. So you're going to go ahead and now you're going to glue this to your base. And make sure that you don't put glue where your holes are. So I'm just going to put enough glue to press this down, because just glue around the edge. You don't have to put it all the way in the middle, because you're going to need that. Oh, that's what I forgot to do. I forgot to make my hole in the middle. So I'm just going to, since I forgot, I'm just going to take my stick, or whatever this is, my art knife or precision cutting blade, craft knife, whatever you call it, and I'm just going to make that initial circle like I made on the other ones. So hopefully you'll remember to do this before you glue it down. And now I have my hole in the middle. So now all set. Like I said, this is just the second time I made this. First time I did it by trial and error, and this time I'm doing it just a little bit better than trial and error. Okay, so now I have that hole, and then I'm going to finish gluing this all the way around. You could just put, a line of glue between the holes. Like I said, you don't have to have this adhered really tightly, just as long as it's in. And I'll just put a line through just to make sure. But I missed this hole because I don't want any glue there, because it'll make it harder for me to get my holes in. Alright, so now we're ready to work on the base. So I'm going to go ahead just to make sure that everything is lining up correctly. I'm going to go ahead, and I am so sorry for this camera. I'm going to go ahead and see, this one I didn't keep in the right spot, but as long as we have it completely under, that you don't see, a lot of the black edge, we'll still be able to get it like we want it. Still might have to trim a little bit off. Alright, I decided to go ahead and finish the canopy top. Now the canopy is going to have this decorative edge go all the way around it. I did cut these out on 17 by 11 inch paper, and then I have the teeth here so that I can attach it to the underside of the carousel so that it has this decorative edge all the way around. So these are the pieces that are going to be the trim around the underside of the carousel wheel. I made them kind of short because I didn't know how well they were going to cover the poles. I didn't want them covering up the pictures that are going to be added. So what you're going to do is you're going to take, I use the tape roller on this because it makes it easier to make any corrections. And all you're going to do is roll your tape roller along the teeth up to the line, and then you're just going to go around and attach this all around that edge. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then when you get to the end, I also have some tape glue on the end so that when I get to the end of this one, I can easily get the next one and just attach it so that it keeps going in a circle around the entire top of the canopy. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use this scrap piece of paper so that I can go down this whole edge on each one of these, and you can have all of these done in advance so that you won't have to keep stopping. It'll just be easy to add them on. So I'm going to lay my piece down just like this, and I'm going to take my tape roller and go as close to the edge, to that gold edge as possible. So I'm lining up the edge of my tape with this thin gold line. If you veer off a little bit, just remember the area and you can always go through and put another roll of glue down there. Might not even matter if you did go over it, because you could still just fold it down to the lines and wouldn't have that much of a difficulty with it. Just trying to make sure that you get as much of that covered as possible of the teeth so that when you stick it underneath your canopy, it will stay in place. And then I'm also going to do this end so that if I need to, when I need to attach them, because I will need to attach them, it's already ready to go. And then I'm just going to carefully set those to the side after I've added, see, because it'll stick to everything, so you want to carefully set that to the side so that it doesn't stick to any of your other pieces, because if it does, the glue will pull your paint off or your ink off of the other pieces. So you want to make sure you keep them separate once you put the tape on. And then don't forget the end piece. And I like using photo paper to do these on because it comes up pretty easily for me when I'm ready to take it up. So we're just going to keep doing those. Make sure to keep them separate so that they don't stick together and ruin your project. Because that happened when I was putting the other one together, and I ended up having to reprint the base because it just totally messed it up. When I had to pull it off, I was so mad. Hopefully I won't run out of tape on these. I have pretty much tape, so maybe I can at least make this next strip. So I'll have all of the strips done, not forgetting the end. See how easily it comes off of there? And making sure to keep those separate. Oh my goodness. Now for the pieces that you're going to have to upload into Cricut, you will have to add a score line down because Cricut doesn't let you share. Oh, I did run out of tape. Oh, I might be able to make it work. Nope, I won't. I'll have to add another one. But I'll make this my last one because I might not even need that in. So, yeah, you can't, Cricut doesn't let you share the files, or they didn't. If it's changed, feel free to let me know. But they didn't let you change or share the files if you uploaded any material because they didn't want any copyright issues. Alright, so now we're ready to attach this to our canopy. Carefully move that one out of the way because the last thing I want to do is have to remake this part. And then you're just going to take your pieces, also remembering not to stick this piece to the ones that are sitting nearby. And I'm just going to start at any point. Maybe I'll start at I don't, the seams are so good I don't even know where I have it overlap. Oh, I see a little bit here, so I'll start it over here. I have to search for it, and all you're going to do is you're going to put it all the way up to that gold line and then press it underneath, and you're just going to do that for the whole section of each of these sections, adding this underneath. And after you do that, because sometime with the photo paper things want to separate, so after I do this I usually go around the edge with some hot glue. After I already have it in place, I'll flip it over and go over it with some hot glue, and then I know it's not gonna move, it's not gonna start peeling. Now once you get to the end, because I have to add a piece, I'm not going to press that all the way yet. So I'm going to get my next piece that I want to add, and I'm going to attach it to the glue here, lining up my image. And I made it where this one can be overlapped some too, but if you line it up like I'm lining up, it will have more of a V shape than the curve. But this is just a sample. This one is not for actual display. This one is just to show how to put them together. Put that down too far. So as you can see, this tape is forgiving. That's why I like to use it on certain projects, on lots of projects actually, because it gives you time to make corrections. So, and once you get the hang of it, you can start going quickly, because we're going to roll it over on its underside, and then we're going to press and make sure all of this is adhered again from the underside. I'm going to use that one where I ran out of tape. Let's see, how far around are we? Okay, yeah, I think I'm going to use one more of the long ones, and then the last one where I ran out of tape is this one. And so you'll need 4 strips of this, and as you can see, I'll have 4 strips. Actually, I'll have more strips in case you want to print more to put around other areas of the carousel, because you might want to get more creative and do a little more than I even did as far as decorating it. But I love how this tape is forgiving. So I'm going to go ahead and finish these off. This wants to stick so bad, but I'm not going to let it. Alright, so you're going to line the image up, making sure your gold line is definitely lined up. Press it all the way through that seam, and then just continue going around. And this project really doesn't take an extremely long time. once you know, if you're not having to talk through it, you can get this done quickly. Because especially with the tape roller is a complete game changer for crafting, for some of the, you know, more difficult tasks with where you need to do hot glue or use hot glue. We're almost done with this, and I'll just need a little piece to finish this out. So I'm just going to leave this out a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead, I tell you this stuff sticks to everything. I'm going to go ahead and line this up, making sure that gold line and everything is still directly in line, and then I'm going to finish attaching that. Now when I get around here, I'll leave a little extra, and I can even rip this because I don't have my scissors right here handy, but it'll be all right because I'm going to put it on the underside, and then it'll be white anyway, and I'll hot glue it to the section that I want it. Alright, so now for this area, I'll put a little bit of hot glue. But first I'm going to turn it this way, and I'm just going to go around all of those, make sure they're pressed in nice and tight. I just averted a disaster. Thank goodness the piece was turned this way, because it would have ripped off my ink from this canopy. And you're just making sure that you're pressing it, making sure that they're all pressed really well in place. All right, and then what I do is I just run a line of hot glue right on top of the teeth all the way around, and I'll do that later so we can keep moving. But you see, that gives this a beautiful look, like it's a real canopy. Alright, let's move on. So now I want to do the base, and I'm going to go ahead and put the holes in so that I know that this lines up with that, and if it doesn't, I'm going to make some adjustments on the fly, but yeah, it's gonna line up. So I'm gonna do the same thing I did before. You know, I really could go ahead and hear this. Like I said, I'm kind of doing this on the fly. I really could go ahead and hear this, and then I would just leave the teeth off, but no, I'm gonna go ahead and do it right. So I'm just going to go ahead and get my border edge and glue that on, and then we'll move on. Okay, now we're going to work on the base pieces around that are going to go around this portion. Oops. That are going to go around the base of the carousel. And all of these are done on 13 by 19 inch paper. I have 4 of them. It probably won't take, it'll probably only take 3. And all I'm doing, I'm stacking them on top of each other. And I'm going to just cut in the middle of the points, because I cut this one by hand using a ruler because the cutter doesn't cut up to 13 by 19 inches. And then I'll have my pieces to go around the base of the carousel. And for this one, I'm going to go ahead and cut the tooth, so I'll have the whole tooth cut out, and then I'll do each one of these individually because I don't want to cut into the actual design. just like that. And I'm probably going to want this piece off too, but I'll see. I'll probably just use it to overlap so that it doesn't show. That one up, yep. So this is a scoring board. If you haven't seen one before, this is the manual way of doing your scores. All you do is line it up. I'm going to line it up and see if that gold line falls perfectly. Yeah, it does. It falls perfectly along this one. So I'm just pushing that in the corner, and then I'm just dragging it down that straight line. Move it up a little bit since it's so long, and continue doing that, going down that line. Just like that, and then you're gonna fold it under. I need to finish cutting those out. Where are my scissors? That will make that go a lot faster. Let me get my scissors. That's what I should have used from the beginning. But alright, and then all you're going to do is fold these down. You can do several at a time. It's pretty forgiving. And these of course just help it to turn in a curve around that base. And you see how quickly it can go once you have it, once you score it with either a machine or by hand. So, oops. Right, so I can get my scoring board out of the way. And fold these down, and we'll be ready to assemble the bottom portion of our carousel. The more precise you are with your scoring line, the easier this three-fold goes. But it doesn't take that much longer if you do have to make some corrections. And we'll do the same thing, but we're going to overlap that part right to match up with this one. So like that. We'll just match it up with the corner or the end of that one. So when we're doing our tape gun, let's get that ready. Flatten the pieces out like this, like so. Now I'm going to put some tape once again at the top of those curves, not curves. Once again, you want to put the tape right under that gold line, as close to it as you can get. And I'm going to put 2 on this one. And then we're going to do the same thing that we did before by getting this edge ready to be joined. And actually I can take it up a little farther because it joins right here. So I'm going to take the glue up a little further. And we'll sit this one carefully to the side to make sure it doesn't attach to anything. And we're going to get started anywhere on this one by lining it up. I guess I can pull this out of the way. by lining it up to that gold edge, the first tooth, and then just slowly turning it and pressing it in place as you go. Do that under the camera. Just slowly turning it. And like I said, this is very forgiving. It's a little less forgiving since we use the use 2 rolls or 2 passes of tape on here, but it still goes on pretty easily. And you just keep going around and lining that up and curve it as you're putting it down. That helps it to adhere or be in place so that you're not having to pull it apart so much. And that's going pretty quickly. This might only take, no, it's going to take 2 and a little more. All right, and then I'm just going to go ahead and press it down. I didn't line that one up as well. So I'm going to go ahead and go under and press this one in place a little bit better. Just going around just like that with your thumb, just to make sure that they're adhered. Now we're going to add our next piece. And we're going to see how much we need to overlap. And I lined that up with the gold line. I actually need to put, I'm going to have to put some tape right down there so that it will attach. So give me a second. So you're going to put some tape here just so that it'll attach to the end on these bigger pieces. So you're going to put tape on the you're going to put glue tape on the outside of this one and on the inside of this side for when you join them. So I'm going to go ahead and line that up again, but remember, I have that glue on there, so I'm going to be more careful and kind of hover above until I see that I'm in the right spot, and then I'll drop it into place. All right. So now that's adhered, and I could continue carefully fold these under so that you're not getting any glue. Carefully fold those first few under so you're not getting any glue on your piece. And then we're just going to continue going around again. It's kind of hard to keep it on that edge. There we go. That's better. Sometimes it works better from a different angle. And I'm just going to keep taking that, trying to keep it right at the edge of our base. And as you can see, this really isn't hard to do. There's your lines right there that you need to follow. So it takes the guesswork out of it. So I only need a little piece to add in, but I'm going to go ahead and do my adherence check back here. And then I'm going to just see how much I need on here. So I basically need, I'm going to cut, so I'm going to overlap a little on both sides. And I think that'll be enough. So it looks like this one is cut right up the middle of this little half circle. I'm going to try and see how that works. If I get that section. Yeah, that works out. Works out. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go under. Now the end of this one might not match up, but that will still work out because it still looks really nice. Alright, so this one, this side is not going to completely match up because of how it's cut. As you can see, it's a little off on that area, but we can still make it work. So now for this piece, to get this part on, I'm just going to go ahead and use my hot glue just to adhere this piece on. I'm just going to pull that in and adhere it. And I'm going to make sure it's held down right there. Now I'm going to have to trim just this little bit to make this sit evenly, because that since that piece had the teeth on it, it raised it up a little more than it needs to be. So I just need to cut off that little piece, and then the base sits perfectly. Now the next part is we're going to be putting this piece in. So hopefully I cut it, I can put the good side, this was scrap I used, so I can put the good side up and see if it fits. If not, I'll have to trim it down a little bit, but let's see. Give it the old college try. Yeah, I'm going to trim it down a little bit because I don't want it to cause me any problems. So I'm just going to go around the edge. I'm just going to go around the edge and just trim off a little bit. So that was why I was saying to cut inside the line, so that when you do that, it will fit neatly up under our base piece. So as you can see, I'm just taking off slivers because it really won't take a lot to fit. And then I'll try it again. That might have done it right there. Not quite. So pull that back out. Oops. I'll pull it back out, and I'll cut it down a little more where it can just drop in. So I'm going to look at it and see what sides I think I need to do. Looks like I could do some over here. You just don't want to make it so, take off so much that it doesn't support the base, that it makes it sag or droop a little bit. That's what I'm trying to avoid. And you definitely want to keep your circle shape as much as possible. These scraps. So I'll cut, test it out, cut, test it out. So that works right there. And looks like I can just get a pressure fit with it. I'm gonna take that out though because I don't want it to take my circle shape away. Alright, it came out pretty easily, so I need to cut down some more. As long as it's covering up a good part of the face, that's what you want, because you just basically need it to hold your skewers in place once the holes are in it. So I'm going to just trim off a little more of that, trying to make sure I'm doing it to keep my circle shape. Because I want this third time to be the one that works. So I'm going to just take up a little bit all the way around, I think. I'm not going to force it, I'm just going to test it. And that fell right in. So this is perfect. And now you see I get to keep my circular shape. It's not pushing out on any other side. So now what we're going to do is I should have put my holes in before I added the base, but since I didn't do it, I'm going to do just like I did with that one. I'm going to make my hole using my craft knife, and then I'll go in with a skewer and make sure I have my hole the way I want it. So I'm just going in there, turning a bit, and get a skewer and stick that in there. And you know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to leave them there so that when I glue, I'll just break it off. I should have done it from that end. Yeah. I'll break it off, and then all my circles won't shift on me. I'm going to go ahead and go to the opposite one and make sure that one's in there all the way. Then I'm going to go ahead and go to this opposite side. Put one here. I don't think I went far enough. And watch your finger under there, so you don't want to nick it with your knife. Boy, that one doesn't want to go in. But I'm going to go ahead and do these all the way around, and then I'll be back. There we go. That'll hold it in place for me. That'll hold it all the way up. And then I can make the rest of my holes. I'm just going to go ahead and go all the way around each of them. Until I feel it come through the other side. And then we'll know we're good to go to glue that bottom piece on. Oops, I didn't realize that one had gone all the way through already. But that's alright, it's just forgiving. I think this is the last one. Okay. Stick that skewer in. Just so we open that hole up all the way. That's for all of them. This one. This one. So we're just going to make sure that the hole goes all the way through so we can start adding our poles to the hole. Got that one. All of them now. So now I'm going to grab my skewers that are already completed. All my photo skewers. Grab these over here. So now I have all my skewers. I'm going to put that second one back in over on this opposite side, and I can literally see that I have it in the right spot. And now I'm just going to lift up one of the sides a little bit just so I can get some glue under there. I'm going to do the same thing on this side because as long as I have a little glue under there, I should be alright. And make sure that you're not doing it right next to the holes. So now I can take these out and I'm going to go all the way around the inside and add a ring of glue that will keep it in place all the way around. I think I got it everywhere except right there. So I'm going to let that cool for a second. Got these strings getting on my base. I'm going to move that out the way. And now we're going to get an idea of what our carousel is going to look like. And since I didn't put a hole in the middle of this one, I can easily put one in using this. Once that part dries, I'll just drop it in and get my hole for this one so that I know where that center skewer goes for the pole, for the wide pole. Let that dry completely. But we're getting a good idea of how it's going to look. Now when we put it on the base, gotta really cut or something. But now when we put it on the base, you'll get the idea of how it's going to look when it's sitting down. Since I have my scissors, yeah, there they are. I'm going to go ahead and cut out this little white piece that was on there while my base finishes drying up. And it's almost set. So now, while that's drying, I'll go ahead and all this extra glue. While that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and put these through the base. Now you can have the white side down or the dark side, whichever you prefer. But these are just going to go right through our holes. All the way up until the top of your pole hits the top of the foam core. And the way I'm doing it, I'm putting a portrait. These are my brothers. I'm putting a portrait next to a landscape positioned photo, just like that. And I'm just going to go around doing that all the way around. I think I'll put my mom and dad on the side of their picture together. So let's do that. Put my dad here. And this is a short one, remember, but it'll still work because it had enough of the full width of the portion. And then we can glue these in anyway when we know that we have them exactly where we want them. And my two nephews. My dad is the only one wobbly because I did the stick wrong, but we'll be able to take care of that with glue. So you can have them just like that, or you can have them all turned a little at an angle, but I think I want them all turned straight like that. I'm going to move this because I don't want to scratch it while I add the base. So now you're going to turn this one right side up. Dad fell out, but that's all right. We'll get him back in. We'll go ahead and stick the bottom portion, and I want to make sure that I don't push that foam core away. So I'm going to hold my hand under it while I add in the pictures. All right, so now I'm going to turn this over. And carefully put everyone's skewer in place. And because I have some room to play at the top, I'm still going to put my hand under there so I can make sure I'm feeding it through the correct hole. And I'm just going to feed each one of those in. Maybe I'll go from side to side so I don't pull it out. This is the only part that gets a little hectic because because you have to kind of work all the sticks at the same time. So I'm going to, if you have someone there, they can hold it up for you while you're working these in. Thankfully my base isn't coming out. I have it glued in pretty well, I guess. Some pieces I'll have to still go under. Yeah, I probably should have made sure that all my pieces were all the way through. So make sure when you put your holes in the base and the top, work it all the way through so you won't have difficulty when it's time to put the actual pictures in. Because if I had made sure that I kind of cleaned up the hole by moving that stick around in there, it would have been much better. But it's still working. It just took a little more effort. And now I just have to get my dad back in there. And I can start. Just going to go around and push them in. Now my mom's acting up. There we go. So I'm just going to go around to the side that seems to be leaning the most and start pushing those in until I have everybody in their place. Just have a couple more. And you're just going to do the same thing. You're going to push these all the way down to the pole. So the pole is all the way down to the, you know, touching the base on all sides. All right. And you can glue these in or leave them where they're movable. That's up to you. If it's not looking like it's centered, but see, we still have to add the center piece, but this is how it looks so far. And then once you add the big top to it, some of these I need to cut the stick off a little more, the skewer, but you get the idea of how it will look. And then you can just go around and adjust all the images. That actually looks really good. I'll take a side view picture so you can see it. And then once we add in our base to that, this piece just sits on top of that octagon, and you have your completed carousel. You can get one of those rotating, revolving little tables, and if you're going to have it revolve, you'll just have to, I just took some squares of foam core and built them up enough so that, and then if you want to add the revolving turntable, you can just put the revolving turntable under there and it will turn around, displaying all of your pictures. So I will take some side images so that you'll see exactly how yours will look, but this is the completed memorial carousel. Thank you for watching. Once again, oh, I forgot the main thing, the flag. The flag says forever loved, and you're just going to make a little hole in the top to add that in. Just want to make a little hole. We'll push your flag all the way down. I made the stick long so that I could adjust it however I want it. So that's how it ends up looking. Now I have to add the center pole. I'll add the center pole just to show you how to do that. Or you can leave it like this and make it look more like a gazebo rather than a carousel. And that's your finished project. For the center section, I'm just going to put my stick through there with the flag stick. I broke it off a little bit, and I'm going to put some glue right around the base of that. Just a bubble of glue. And then I'm going to hold the flag in the position that I want it. And I wanted it kind of parallel. And then I'm just going to hold that a little bit of time and let it dry. There is the finished piece.